Hello, beautiful viewers. Tom South of the Cosmos. Prepare to indulge in experiencing sheer bliss, because today another riveting, captivating, stellar video is about to be brought to fruition. What does this video entail, you may ask? Well, let me demystify that answer to that inquiry right here, right now. Today I'm going to elicit a monologue about the tragic story of how I lost my action figure collection a decade into the 2000s. The story makes me sick thinking about it. I would prefer not to dwell on negativity. I prefer to not harp on negativity. I do not like recollecting the story, but my goal is to entertain you. I want to elicit an enthralling, captivating, novel, mesmerizing experience within your finite life. So I will divulge it. I will render it transparent. And hopefully I will not disappoint you. Some people relish other people's misfortunes. Personally, I hope that everybody reaps the maximum amount of value out of life. I hope that tragic circumstances do not befall upon anybody. However, this was the second most calamitous moment within my life. The circumstances were out of my control, and there's nothing that I could have done, so I prefer to move forward. I do not want to contemplate about the past, but I'm just going to bring it up this one time, and then I'll move forward and abstain from talking about it, or abstain from ranting and raving about it, since there's nothing I can do to modify the past. I cannot remedy the situation. I can only focus on the future and strive to rebuild my action figure collection. Now, do not make any arbitrary assumptions. The action figures you see behind me I purchased relatively recently. I began rebuilding my action figure collection once again. Now, to give you a synopsis about the story before I start reading it in depth, I began collecting action figures. Sorry about the distractions. It's cumbersome for me to concentrate when there's screaming and hollering right outside my door. Alright, so the action figures you see behind. Do you mind talking in our room? Can you please not shout in the hallway? Sorry about that. These are the ramifications associated with living with other people. Again, it's out of my control. I cannot afford to finance a mortgage for a one-bedroom condo at a moment, so I have to succumb to the circumstances that I broke and the adverse conditions that I endure. The screaming bothers me. It agitates me, which is why I perpetually wear earplugs to mitigate the deleterious effects associated with being exposed to sounds outputted at a high decibel limit. I digress. Let's get back to the story. So to give you a synopsis about it, I began collecting action figures in the early 2000s, probably as early as the late 1990s when I was 7 years old, and this was the golden age of action figures. If you began collecting action figures in this time period, then you likely relished in a similar experience that I did. Amid this time period, Toy Biz was producing the Marvel Legends action figures. They retailed for $8 each. Then you had Playmates that were churning out the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures that were based on the TMNT comic book series. And of course you had the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe action figures that were sculpted by the Four Horsemen Studios. You also had the Tommy Pokemon figurines in conjunction with Mortal Kombat action figures, as well as Harry Potter figurines. You also had Halo action figures, and Avatar: The Last Airbender figurines. What else do we have? We have the Dragon Ball Z figurines produced by Jakks Pacific and Irwin Toys, and of course the Lord of the Rings action figures are produced by Toy Biz, as well as Transformers action figures produced by Hasbro. I love the Transformers Armada figurines. You just had a myriad of stellar action figure lines being released simultaneously over this time period, and they were highly detailed. They had ample points of articulation. They had high quality shadings, high quality textures. I also love the Kingdom Hearts figurines. These figurines were just extraordinary. They offered unprecedented value for your money. I also was fond of the Star Wars figurines that were part of the 3.75 inch action figure scale. Hasbro produced those. So here are some of the figurines from the early 2000s. Here's a Triceratops that I procured recently. Here's a Jedi Master. Forgot his moniker. Is it beginning with an A? Or Kaidi Mundu or something? Who knows? Doesn't really matter. It's trivia nonsense that has no pragmatic use. So I do not care about memorizing these characters' names. And then of course we had the Toy Biz Lord of the Rings action figures. I'll show one of them right now. Here's a Ranger. I love his textures. Unfortunately, his knees are not double jointed. Actually, they may be. I didn't think they were. Never mind. He's just relatively sturdy. His joints are a bit tight. Are his legs in a ratchet? Possibly. I did not need to scrutinize these figurines now. I just wanted to showcase some figurines from the early 2000s. Now these figurines I own now. I used to own in the past, however I was forced to relinquish them amid losing my action figure collection. However, I repurchased some of them. And then today, fast forward to modern times, you have Playmates TMNT action figures that are and shorter than the former TMNT action figure line. These are part of a 4-inch scale line as opposed to a 5-inch scale line, and also they're devoid of plastic in certain areas. Let me showcase a paradigm of an action figure produced by Playmates. As Playmates Toys, that is devoid of plastic in certain areas. You see this particular figurine, he's missing plastic filling in his tail and in his feet. What a disappointment. Here's a He-Man. Well, here's Skeletor. He's derived from the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe action figure line produced amid the early 2000s. He was sculpted by the illustrious, world-renowned Four Horsemen Studios, which also produced the sculpts for the Toy Biz Marvel Legends action figures. So this was a standard back then, and toy companies haven't been able to match it in recent years. If anything, the prices for action figures have been amplifying and the standards have been diminishing. But I wanted to give you some perspective and some background about the past and what you would be able to relish experiencing and indulge in experiencing if you collected action figures amid this action figure golden age, as I like to call it. These were released post Toy Biz filed for bankruptcy, I believed. They were sculpted by the Four Horsemen Studios. These are the DC Universe Classics action figures. I never collected this line. I have some DC Direct figurines, but I'd love to be able to possess this entire line if I got the opportunity and if I had the monetary means to do so. So, not all modern day action figures are abysmal. They're not all appalling, but they are overpriced. The figurines produced by Namco Bandai, they retail for over $40. They retail for exorbitant amounts of money. They're just deemed relatively unaffordable, and then their price is further amplified when they're listed on the secondhand market via eBay. So it's just unfortunate what has transpired. The prices are out of control. These action figures appreciate in value rather than depreciate. Video games depreciate in stark contrast to action figures. But I hope that 3D printers will become mainstream so that these action figures will become affordable to possess once again, because right now they're not. On the second-hand market, they have the action figures produced in the early 2000s have practically tripled in value, and the action figures that are being released today are unaffordable to procure for their retail price before going on the second-hand market. So it is what it is. So now that you have some idea of the action figures released in that time period, let's move on. So I amassed a copious amount of action figures. I had hundreds of them. How much would I say? How many action figures did I have about? How many would I estimate that I had? I never did a head count per se, but I probably had at least 400, maybe somewhere from like 400 to 800. So I probably had, how many did I mark down earlier that I had? I probably had roughly 600 action figures. I mean, I should have counted every single one. But that was what I relinquished. And at the time, these action figures were being sold for, most of them were being sold for triple the retail price because they appreciated in value. They were no longer worth $8 if you purchase them via eBay. Even used, their retail price soared, it skyrocketed. But I had them mint on card, which further amplifies their intrinsic value and which further increases their monetary value that they command. So I really got lowballed when I was forced to relinquish them. I never placed them on eBay. never contemplated about selling everything in one lot and hiring a moving company to ship it across the states. But that would have been the most viable option. That would have been the most lucrative option. To sell them individually, it would have taken years. I was a full-time student back then. I'm a full-time doctoral student today. So even though I'm nearly 24 years old, it seems as though I haven't progressed too far in life, in contrast to the stage of my life I was at, or the phase of my life I was at when I was 18 or 19. I mean, I was in college back then. I was pursuing my undergraduate degree. Since then, I've earned an MBA in marketing. I've earned a Bachelor of Science in Marketing. Or is it a Bachelor's of Science in Marketing? Sorry about making the blunder and excluding the plural from it. But the case in point is I'm still a full-time student. I'm at another phase. I have 7 more classes remaining in my doctoral program. I'm striving to optimize my chances to retain my 4.0 GPA, but being a full-time student is an impediment towards being able to generate wealth, which is a problem. And the reason I decided not to drop out of school to afford to perpetually finance a storage unit was because I didn't want to compromise my career prospects. I did not want to put my job prospects in peril. I figure that if I sacrifice and if I suffer for the first half of my life, hopefully the subsequent years of my life wouldn't be inundated with misery and poverty. Hopefully I will not be impoverished and destituted and oppressed in the future. Hopefully I'll be liberated in certain facets. So I'm just doing my due diligence now. I'm sacrificing now, and even if I get 2 hours of sleep for a significant amount of nights, even if it decimates my body, even if it puts my health in peril, even if it induces tremendous stress within my final life, at least I'm striving to make progress within my life. I want to make headway into my future, and I want to prompt changes within my life, and the only way I can do this is by sacrificing who I am now in order to transcend to something better, which is what the journey of being a student entails. You incur a tremendous opportunity cost, you indebt yourself, and you forgo the opportunity to work full-time, being self-employed full-time, in order to be eligible to apply for a niche job that you're not even guaranteed to get. So, I mean, that's another issue. That's another calamity within itself. But it is a system. You have to conform. If you want to work for somebody else, you have to abide by their rules. It's out of your control. You could only control so much within your life. People typically can't even control their immediate environment, let alone the circumstances they broke. But let me just read you the story. Actually, let me just give you a synopsis very briefly before I read an elaborate, detailed story about this tragic event. After amassing hundreds of action figures, keeping them in mint condition, unopened for the most part, I was forced to relinquish them when I was 19 years old. My family member wouldn't let me store them in her vacant backyard, or mostly vacant backyard. Now I had the choice to lease a storage unit, but I would not be able to afford it in the long haul unless I opted to drop out of school, because I did not want to put the prospect of performing eminently on my assignments in peril. I did not want to put my future in peril. So I opted to
because he was supposed to do something at her house, and she's like, "Go away, it's done." And then every night he puts dirt near her house because he has a crush on her.
Can you stop shouting in the hallway, please? Sorry, I was distracted. I need to get back on topic. So, yeah, I didn't want to put my future in peril, so I opted to relinquish them rather than lease a storage unit in the short haul that I could not afford to sustain payments for in the long haul. So I ultimately wound up losing them due to a lack of monetary resources, due to not possessing my own property. Now, I purchased I purchased some action figures recently, and they do not take up a whole room. They're open this time. They're not sealed. They're not relegated to their innate default boxes, so they can be compressed into containers, which renders them obtainable if you have a finite amount of space. But the action figure collection that I had in the past, it took up a copious amount of square footage. It required a whole room to store, and I couldn't afford a storage unit for it. So the option was to pay for storage unit in the short haul and lose everything anyways, or liquidate it. Now the option never dawned on me to sell everything in one major lot on eBay and hire a moving company to ship it out, because that's what I would have needed to do in order to accommodate the prospective buyer. Now, I sold action figures for roughly $2 to $3 each, even though they were in nearly mint and pristine condition. They were unscathed, and I got ripped off. I knew that it was a blatant rip-off, considering that the action figures that I sold for nearly $2 to $3 each as a lot were being sold on eBay for roughly $20 to $30. So I was selling the action figures for 10 cents on the dollar. It's just a real pity. It's a real shame. It makes me sick. But yet again, I never contemplated the possibility about selling everything on one lot on eBay. I would have had to hire a moving company to ship it out. But if you put something on the global marketplace and you have competition amongst,
I'll give it to you after I eat.
if you have competition amongst,
After I eat. No, I didn't eat the whole day. I'll give it to you soon. Don't do that to someone.
alright, sorry about those all the distractions. It's hard just to concentrate, and people are hollering and screaming outside the door. But what was I to say? If you put them on the secondhand market, on the global secondhand market, which is eBay, then there's competition. Buyers will bid one another up, so you'll be able to procure hefty premium prices for your collection amid selling it, rather than succumbing to the despicable, disgraceful, pitiful offer of one private buyer. He bought them in a lot for $2 to $3 per figure, 10 cents on the dollar of their second-hand market value at the time. Since 2010 or 2011, when I sold them, they have significantly appreciated. But it's just an amazing deal when you could procure nearly all of the Toy Biz Marvel Legends action figures unopened for $2 to $3 each. It's an amazing deal when you could procure nearly all of the TMNT 2002 to 2007 action figures unopened for nearly $2 to $3 each. It's an amazing deal when you could procure nearly all of the Halo 2, or a significant amount of the Halo 2, the Chronicles of Narnia, the Harry Potter, the DC Direct, the King of Hearts, and the Dragon Ball Z figurines, as well as the Star Wars figurines for $2 to $3 each. And some of these action figures I sold, unbeknownst to me at the time, were selling for over $100, such as the Bardock that came bundled with Goku in the anniversary pack, and the 10th year Jack Pacific anniversary pack, or the 10th year DBZ anniversary pack. I'm not sure what it's an anniversary of. Maybe it's the anniversary of Dragon Ball Z or Jack Pacific. Who knows? I'm not going to make arbitrary assumptions here. The Shikamaru and Nara action figure also sells for over $100. New the King Cold action figure, Frieza's father, also sells for over $100 new, bundled with trunks. These are all the figurines that I had. I also relinquished my Tommy figurines, the Beanie Babies, which I didn't really care about losing. I relinquished, obviously, the Teen Titans action figures are part of the 3 to 4 inch action figure line. I didn't really care about losing those figurines, nor did I really care about losing the Justice League Unlimited 4.5 inch action figures. So some figurines that I lost I didn't really care about too much. I also had a bunch of random action figures from the dollar store that I neglected to open. As I said earlier, I collected them with a prospective opening up this Prodigious Action Figure Collection in the future when I owned a 1-bedroom condo and when I could afford display cases for all of them. But that's essentially a pipe dream. I essentially bought them decades in advance with the prospect of opening them when I was 30 and after I started working. But today I'm still undergoing my the calamitous phase of being a full-time doctoral student. So in terms of making headway into my future, I've made some since then. I've earned 3 degrees, including an MBA marketing. I have 2 years left in the doctoral program, but I'm still a full-time student, so I still feel as though my revenue prospects are bleak at the moment when I do not have the opportunity to work full-time. I also spawned 40,000 videos in the past, but most of them no longer exist on YouTube, so it's out of my control. If a bureaucrat wants to terminate my content, I could send all the appeals, but if they reject every single one of my appeals, it's completely out of my control. And if they have no qualms about decimating my livelihood, no compunction about decimating my livelihood, then it is what it is. I do not want to be dependent on other people. I want to be self-sufficient. But like I said, as I said in the past, well, you probably never watched one of the past videos when I was harping about this particular issue, which is a separate issue. But if you upload videos onto a video hosting website, you do not own the domain. They could terminate your content at any moment. You're subject to their rules, and if they arbitrarily terminate your content for whatever reason they see fit, then you have to succumb to their mercy. In terms of owning my own website and procuring the server space in order to host my videos onto one website rather than embed them on a website and upload them on the video hosting website, it would cost a fortune. So that's not affordable. Plus, I would need to be able to monetize them, and there's no guarantee that Google will allow you to retain your Google AdSense account if they do not approve of your monetized video views for whatever reason they see fit. So it's all out of my control. But if you lack capital, then you're at other people's mercy. You have to play their game until you can afford to finance your own website, finance your own corporation, start your own enterprise. But at the moment, you just have to pursue low capital activities if you want to be self-employed. So that's another topic, and I'll discuss more about that later. But let me actually read this story. So I sold the action figures for $1,000, even though they were worth at least $10,000. It really irritated me, really agitated me, it really infuriated me. But those are the repercussions of not placing them on the second-hand market. It would have been most lucrative to sell them individually, but that's a full-time job. I wasn't willing to drop it a school to do that, nor did the idea dawn on me to sell them all in a lot, because I would need literally to hire a moving company to ship them across the United States. But that would have been the most viable, feasible idea in hindsight. But I can't modify the past. I cannot change the circumstances. I can just move forward and hopefully I can rebuild them. Now, if I want to possess these figurines once more, I'll probably need to pay triple the price and when I bought them for. So if I bought these figurines for roughly $10 each per figurine, which was approximately the price I paid for them amid purchasing them in the retail stores, I'd probably need to buy them today for roughly $30 a figurine. It depends on the figure I want. Now I want the luxury of getting them new. They'll be open, their integrity will have been compromised, but it's not the end of the world. At least now I'll be able to enjoy the collection. Now my parent at the time, she never explicitly stated to me that I'd be able to retain the action figure collection had I opened them all. Had I known that, though, had she said that to me, I'm a very literal person, that it would have ravaged all the boxes and opened them at the last minute. You could still preserve them and safeguard them by placing them in individual bags or place them in bubble wrap, or you could even utilize toilet paper. You could just be creative if you want to protect them. There's a multitude of options that you could procure to safeguard your action figures, but as I stated earlier, the past is over. It will never transpire again. I can only move forward. So I set up this campaign on GoFundMe. If somebody has a means to do so and if they would like to voluntarily donate to me, they can pursue that option. Of course, if it puts your happiness in peril, if you do not have the means to donate, if you'd prefer to spend the money on yourself, then by all means abstain from donating and neglect to donate. I do not believe in involuntary transactions. I'm not a proponent of involuntary transactions. So in other words, if you're a billionaire and you'd rather spend $1 upon yourself to clean up your mess with it, then by all means do so. I do not want to compromise your happiness, so only donate if you advertently want to, and only if you have the monetary means to do so, and only if it doesn't compromise your happiness. Under those conditions can be satisfied eminently, then donate. So here's a story that I'm finally going to share to you after a half an hour ranting about this and reiterating myself and being redundant. The story's not vapid, I assure you. Let's go. Here we go. The story's about to commence. My action figure collection started at an early age of about 7 years old in 1997. I became even more of a hardcore collector as time progressed and desisted from collecting new action figures post the middle of 2008 at 16 years old until I started recently rebuilding my action figure collection. Unfortunately, I succumbed to losing almost my entire action figure collection, either 19 years old 2011 or 18 years old 2010. This calamity was devastating since I dedicated hundreds upon hundreds of hours out of my finite life tracking down these figurines across the retail stores, mostly Manhattan, that I financed, purchasing by saving up allowances and remnants of my lunch money. I bought all these figurines with the intention of being able to perpetually retain them, with the intention of being able to utilize them to create more stop motion videos of these figurines and acquire them with the intention of being able to display them in a one-bedroom condo that I dreamt of one day being able to afford to finance mortgage payments for after finishing school. After the tragic moment of my father passing away from contracting cancer when I was 14, we moved to another state and I was able to store the figurines in my grandpa's basement until I was 16 and he lost the house. Subsequently, we yet again moved to another state and I was able to store them in my mom's boyfriend's garage until we also lost the house. We then moved into a family member's house who did not want me to store them inside our mostly vacant backyard, which left me with two options that included the following: finance a storage unit that I could not afford at least in the long haul amid being a full-time student, or alternatively liquidate the action figure collection as fast as possible to minimize losses. I need to enlarge in the font. My vision's abysmal. It's perpetually diminishing. At the time, I did not think that selling them individually via eBay would be a feasible idea, since I would need to finance a storage unit to house them in amid listing them on eBay, and primarily because it would compromise my chances to perform eminently on my assignments for school, since my schedule was inundated with coursework at that time period, 2011, just as it is today in 2015. Back then in 2011, I was pursuing an undergraduate degree, and today I'm pursuing a doctoral degree. Unfortunately, school takes forever to finish, copious amounts of years to finish if you want to earn a terminal degree in a niche field, so that you can become eligible to apply for a specific job opportunity that you're not even guaranteed to procure after earning the terminal degree. In hindsight, I should have took pictures of everything, sold everything in a lot on eBay, and contracted a moving company to ship it all to a US bidder. Since mid-ton action figures, almost all unopened, that likely could fill up the capacity of a medium-sized storage unit to the brim, will likely require a moving truck to ship hundreds of unopened action figures immediately to a buyer. Since I did not list them on the second-hand action figure market, eBay, I almost got nothing for them, even though at the time they were mostly selling on eBay for at least 2 to 4 times their original retail value, even when open. My mom found a private buyer, an old friend who would be interested in jointly purchasing them, was a comic book store owner. Despite their eBay second-hand market values of $16 to $40 per figurine for most of them, I had to succumb to relinquishing them for about $2 to $3 per figurine, significantly less than the price I paid for them amid buying them in the retail stores of mostly $8 to $10 per figurine, since I lack bargain power as a result of not placing them on the lucrative global second-hand action figure market, eBay. My mother did not know any prospective my mother did not know any prospective buyers other than these 2 individuals, so I was at the mercy of their joint pitiful offer and wound up succumbing to selling them in pristine condition, unopened, for 90% of their second-hand market value at the time they were sold. These buyers acquired the best action figure deal of all time. Where else could they in the universe buy impeccable action figures mint on card unopened, such as nearly all the Toy Biz Marvel Legends series 9 through 15 action figures for $2 to $4 per figure, when they easily sell on eBay for $16 to $40 each, or sometimes more, dependent upon the figure. I'm making blunders as I'm reading this over. I'm tired. I'm striving to finish this video in an expeditious manner. Also, I didn't refine this story. I was typing in at 4 a.m. when I was tired and when I was weary and lethargic, so these are the repercussions of always being weary, of always being lethargic, of being gaunt, being anorexic. I need to eat more. I'm in dire need of food, but I need to finish this video before I do anything else. I'm finishing what I started. Alright, so it was a dreadful experience to concede to accepting this offer and subsequently relinquish hundreds of stellar action figures, nearly all Toy Biz Marvel Legends figures, Hasbro 2007 Marvel Legends figures, Legendary Comic Book Heroes figures, Lord of the Rings action figures, 2002 to 2007 TMNT figures, Star Wars Episode 3 and 2 figurines, Justice League Unlimited figures, Naruto figures, Teen Titans figures, Halo action figures, Harry Potter figures, 2002 to 2003 He-Man and the Masters of the Universe figures, Tommy Pokemon figures, Dragon Ball Z figures, Transformers Armada figures, DC figures, One Piece figures, Mortal Kombat figures, Avatar and the Last Airbender figures, and the Chronicles of Narnia action figures that I planned on retaining the rest of my life, and I planned on opening when I could afford to purchase my own one-bedroom condo display cases for them. To my dismay, life does not always go as planned, obviously. In the context of completing action figure lines, excluding variants, I possess nearly a full collection of original Toy Biz Marvel Legends series 1 through 15 unopened. From series 6 onward, I possessed about 70 to 80% of the original 150 Tommy Pokemon figures. I possessed most of the Star Wars Episode 3 movie-based figurines. I possess almost all of the Mattel 45-inch Naruto figures. I possess nearly all of the Jazz Wars Mortal Kombat figures. I possessed about 70% of the Lord of the Rings action figure line. If you exclude duplicate figures, I possessed nearly all of the Dragon Ball Z Jack Specifics and Irwin Toys figures. I possess nearly all of the Kingdom Hearts figures. I possess nearly all of the TMNT 2002 to 2007 action figures. If you exclude the variants of the Turtles, I possessed about half the Toy Biz Legendary Comic Book Heroes action figure line. I possess a significant amount of unopened DC Direct figures. I possessed a significant amount of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe figures based off the 2002 TV series. I possessed a significant amount of Minotaur figures from the Chronicles of Narnia action figure line. I possessed a significant amount of Transformers Armada figures. I possessed a significant amount of Halo 2 figures. I possessed most of the 4.5-inch Justice League Unlimited figures, which I do not care too much about losing, since the DC Universe Classics figurines supersede them in all facets. I possess most of the Teen Titans 3 to 4-inch action figures, which I do not care too much about losing, since the 6-inch DC Universe Classics action figures trump them in nearly all aspects, and I lost a plethora of other figurines from various other action figure lines that I was not close to completing, unlike the aforementioned action figure lines that I listed earlier. So I also had other action figures such as Aaron, I believe that's his name, from Final Fantasy. I lost him as well. I believe he was produced by Namco Bandai. I had figures that were obscure that were part of other action figure lines. I also had Jim the Earthworm, figurines like that. These quirky, unusual, unique, novel figures that I barely had any of their figurines within the lines that I neglected to mention thus far. So I had some Street Fighter figurines. I didn't have a ton. I had some Final Fantasy figurines. I didn't have a plethora of them. What else did I have? I'm trying to recollect. I had small soldier. What is it? Small soldiers or small soldier figurines that were part of that action figure movie. I had what else did I have? I had some Tron figurines. But I wasn't too far invested into these action figure lines, so that's why I didn't list them earlier. But the other ones I listed, such as Toy Biz Marvel Legends, the Mortal Kombat figures, the Lord of the Rings figures, the TMNT figures, the He-Man figures, the Halo 2 figures. I had nearly all of those figures within the lines. I also had nearly all the Dragon Ball Z Jazz Pacifics and Irwin Toys figures. I'm excluding variants and duplicates. So let me just press onward. Let's go. Selling them to two private buyers for about 70 to 90% less than their second-hand market values was seemingly a more viable option than leasing a storage unit that I could not afford to retain the long haul amid being a full-time student. Pursuing either option had dire outcomes. If I sold them individually on eBay in 2011, then this entire collection would have likely sold easily for $10,000 based on their second-hand market values at the time. Today, collectors will likely be willing to pay far more than $10,000 for the action figures I once possessed, considering almost all have further appreciated in value, and considering these collectors spend thousands upon thousands of dollars for Marvel Legends lost as standalone listings. Furthermore, where was I? Just to give you some more perspective about my former unopened action figure collection, in mid-2004, around the time period of Marvel Legends Series 6 being released, I stopped opening my action figures. I also possess massive figurines which encompass King Kong, Unicron from Transformers Armada, the Golden Great Ape from Dragon Ball GT, and an enormous Kraken figure. I also had the Justice League Unlimited Watchtower, the Dragon Ball Z Tournament Arena, the Batcave, and the Castle Grayskull playset completed with all their corresponding accessories and components. Most of these figurines I possess sell for $16 to $40 each, even though they once commanded an $8 to $10 retail price amid being released onto store shelves in the early 2000s. I would love to be able to afford to buy back these figurines as soon as possible and not have to wait additional years until I finish undergo my doctoral program and can work full time until I can finance the rebuilding of my action figure collection. I should be able to retain them this time as long as they are all open and now sealed in their boxes. If they are open, I could consolidate them down to relatively few containers. So here are the outrageous second-hand market values of certain figures, as mentioned earlier, with the caveat of some of the action figure lines I possess, such as the Teen Titans and Justice League Unlimited action figure lines. Almost all the action figures that I once had owned have enormously appreciated in value. In fact, some cost $50 to $200 each to buy, such as the Dragon Ball Z King Cold figurine package with featured trunks, the Dragon Ball Z 10th anniversary Bardock figure bundled with Goku, the Shikamaru action figure, the Cry figure based off the 2003 TMNT series, Arbiter figure from Halo 2, the Marvel Legends Juggernaut figure, and all the Toy Biz Marvel Legends figurines except Giant Man that I had sealed amongst ample boxes, since each of them for the Build-A-Figures are bundled with a particular figurine, a part of the set. I don't know, Giant Man is obviously amplified in value significantly. He's well worth over $100, but I just wrote except Giant Man in the posting. It makes sense when you read it, but now that I divulge it because I'm making blunders upon speaking, I'm not reading it properly because I'm tired and I'm trying to read it swiftly. I also have trouble seeing because my vision is appalling. But the giant man is significantly amplified in value. I just excluded him from the listing of. Oh, I excluded to mention him. I excluded to mention his price from the posting for the values of the figurines that I possessed, because I did not own him. So I owned all the other Build-A-Figure figurines produced by Toy Biz, with the caveat of Giant Man, which is why I neglected to add him. Sorry, I'm a bit tired. It's arduous for me to focus. Let me just finish this. And so if people donate to this campaign, the reward will be that I'll elicit 100 new videos about action figures, that encompass action figure unboxing videos, videos on eBay that scrutinize action figure auctions, and review videos of action figures, which will be uploaded to my Epic Action Figure Realm YouTube channel. So I started purchasing some of the action figures again, as you can see behind me. The money that I received from selling them is depleted. I no longer possess it. I knew that I would need to. I knew that I would wind up paying triple the price to repurchase them in the future. I knew that both outcomes were dire, that they were both grim, that they were both unfruitful. They both had adverse effects against me from a financial perspective, but one of them was less deleterious than the other one. I mean, if I financed a storage unit, I would have lost in the long haul, so I would have completely depleted my savings at that time, and then I would have lost them anyways. But if I liquidated them, then at least I would have got something for them. Even if I got 10 cents on the dollar of their secondhand market value at that time, is still better than absolutely nothing. He had to hire a moving truck in order to transfer them to his abode, so it is what it is. He only bought it, was a comic book collector, so he may still own half of my collection, but it's just real pitiful that I just succumbed to their offer. I didn't know any private buyers other than the one that my mom knew, and I never posted them on Craigslist. I never posted them on the global secondhand market. I never had the means to do so. I would have had to pay for a storage unit amid listing them on eBay, and I just didn't want to finance a storage unit. But it probably is going to be cheaper to buy them in the future, pay triple or quadruple the price, and it would have been to finance a storage unit for over a decade. People lose personal property over time, all the time, and they lose it over time, but it's completely out of my control. Like I said, if I do not have the monetary means to do so, then I do not have the monetary means to retain my collection. At least now they're open. Had I kept these figures sealed, I bought these open, but had the seller kept them sealed and neglected to open them, and had I abstained from opening them amid purchasing them, then they would have taken up a copious amount of square footage, and I would have been back to square one. Now, of course, they could have been stored in the vacant backyard of my family member's property, but she would not let me, so it's out of my control. I say could have, but well, technically they really couldn't have been, because she presides over the property. It's out of my control. If she would rather have a vacant property than have my boxes stored in the backyard that she doesn't utilize, there's nothing I can do. I mean, they could have been covered up and shrouded in darkness. They could have been obfuscated by sheets outside or by coverings, but like as I stated earlier, it's out of my control. If she doesn't want me to keep them in her backyard, then there's nothing I can do. So those options were dreadful. Now, obviously, if you want to donate to help the cause of me rebuilding my action figure collection, I would love to be able to reclaim my Prodigious Action Figure Collection, but it may not happen until I'm 40, until I can afford to buy them all, and hopefully I'll the space to house them in when I buy them, so I'll never have to lose them the second time. And this time I'm opening them, I'm enjoying them, I'm not going to keep anything in the packaging. And if it gets scratched, if it gets marred, if the integrity of it gets compromised, it's not the end of the world. At least now I'm enjoying it. Now in one aspect it was like I never really owned all these action figures. Now why would I say that though? And you may be bewildered, you may be flustered. Well, let me just elucidate why it seems as though I never truly own these action figures. Even though I technically own them, they were relegated to a storage room. Initially they were confined within my parents' condo, and then we moved to my grandpa's house. They were in his basement, so they didn't see the light of day. They were in boxes within boxes, so they were mint in car, not open, and then they were inside their boxes again, and then they were in my mom's boyfriend's garage. And then at the time I had to relinquish them when he was about to lose his house. So it was out of my control because the house we were moving into, my family member wouldn't let me store them there in her vacant backyard. So in one aspect, even though I own them, it was more of that I psychologically own them, because at least now I utilize them, at least now I flaunt them on my shelf. But in the past they were essentially relegated to a closet, they were relegated to a storage room, they didn't see the light of day, they were shrouded in darkness. But if you're going to have a collection, it's just futile unless you utilize your collection. You're supposed to relish your collection, you're supposed to leverage what you have. You're not supposed to neglect to utilize this. So in the future, the second time I require these action figures, which I think will happen because I'm going to just perpetually work and incessantly work until I can afford to purchase them again, I'll be able to at least enjoy them this time. So I'll have the gratification of opening them and seeing them, and not just psychologically knowing that I open them, because with the purpose is almost in vain if you just keep them in a storage unit. And then people on eBay wind up relinquishing them because they neglect to open them, they don't really enjoy them, and then they need to liquidate them for whatever reason. So it's not even like they got any usage out of them. Some people don't open video games, other people don't open comic books. It just doesn't make any sense. I do not buy based off his extrinsic value. I buy based off his personal value and based off his intrinsic value. How much merit does it have to me? I mean, that's what it amounts to. It's all subjective, whether I deem the action figure to have merit or not. But these figurines, are they worth $20, $30 now? Perhaps. Would I love to be able to print them out in the future via 3D printer? Obviously. Is that going to transpire? I do not know. The future is an enigma. But I would love to be able to require these figurines. I'll strive to reamass my collection. I'll strive to rebuild my collection. I think I've done a stupendous job thus far, because I've procured some of the figurines that I owned in the past for decent deals. I haggle the price down. I always adamant about finding a bargain, and even though they're more expensive used on the secondhand market, even without their corresponding accessories than they were in the retail stores, at least I've been able to get them for somewhat affordable prices now. And this story is just tragic. It is not easy to cope with, and it's an experience that I never want to endure again. These are the ramifications of not opening your craft. You're more apt to lose it. If you need to sell an estate or whatnot, put it on eBay, and if you need to hire a shipping company to ship it out, then do it. Do everything on one lot on eBay. Once you receive your payment from your prospective buyer, ship it out. You can insure your items. You can have them pay for the insurance policy. It's up to you. But put them on the market. If you don't put them on the market, if you sell to a flea market, or even a flea market is a market, but if you sell to a private buyer, not from a global market, just somebody you know locally, you're going to get lowballed, and you're going to be at his mercy. You're going to succumb to selling them for a significantly lower price than their second-hand market value, which is not ideal because you want to maximize your profits. But once I finish school, then I could allocate all my time into working full-time, and then since I can seize the opportunity to work full-time post finishing school, then I could hopefully generate enough wealth to be able to afford to finance a mortgage for one bedroom condo, and then once again afford to finance a mortgage for one bedroom condo, then I could start repurchasing my action figure collection, and I'll purchase them used. And if I happen to buy anything that I come across in the retail stores that I like new for around $10, then I'll open them this time, even though it causes them to lose monetary value amid opening them, similarly to how cars lose monetary value amid driving them off a lot. At least I'll enjoy them. So it is what it is. I'm done ranting about it. I'm done raving about it. It's a tragic story. Unfortunately, you cannot control the circumstances that you broke. There was no fruitful outcome. These figurines should have sold for $10,000. They sold for $1,000. I knew this. I was at their mercy. The idea of selling them on eBay in one line and then hiring a shipping company to ship them out never dawned on me. I got lowballed. I got ripped off. It was a pitiful offer. It was disgraceful. He probably is laughing on the way to the bank. The two people who bought them, one of them is a collector, so he buys them for personal value. The other one is apparently owns a comic book store, so he has equity in a business, and he was probably reselling these figurines for $30 or $40 each, even though he paid $2 to $3 each per figurine. It just makes me sick what transpired, because I was planning on retaining these action figures the rest of my life. It would have been a disparate scenario if I had to test these action figures. Then it wouldn't have been the end of the world to relinquish them for such a low price to provide someone else with unprecedented value. But I wanted these action figures the rest of my life. I wanted to at least break even on them, and of course it never transpired. Had I put them on the market, I would have been able to get their market value for them, which is nearly triple their initial retail price. So it really disappoints me, it infuriates me, it agitates me. I'm done dwelling in it. I'm done harping on negativity. I've been discussing it now for nearly an hour. It's mind-boggling. It's almost unbearable to cope with. I really need to move on. I need to roleplay that I never own these figurines, because that's the only way that I could cope with the situation. If I just pretend it doesn't exist and I move on. I just hope that the future is better, though, and maybe one day I'll be able to buy them back for an affordable price. So it'll probably cost me nearly $15,000 to buy them back in the future. But that's what I have to succumb to. I guess it is what it is. I mean, I know I have major expenses when I'm older, but I'll never get married. I'll never date. I'll never have children. So I save money in that aspect. I'm striving to generate revenue by being self-employed, and if I have to succumb to working for somebody else, I hope that I could work remotely. I'm just going to strive to live my life like a minimalist so I could buy back all these hunks of plastic. I really want them. Am I going to starve myself to buy back these action figures? No, I'm not going to undergo extreme measures like I did in the past, where I would just try to amass as much of my lunch money as possible to be able to afford these figurines. But I need more fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. It's pivotal that I acquire the essential macro and micronutrients that I need to obtain optimal health. But in the past, even when I was hungry, I would say, you know what, instead of getting another item on the menu, I'm going to abstain from buying this particular item so I could buy another hunk of plastic. And all these sacrifices for nearly a decade just to lose everything. It just goes to show you don't buy anything unless you have the storage space to house it in. And in this scenario, I mean, I don't own this property that I reside within, but if I moved, I should be able to afford to retain them, as long as I can condense them down to shelves or down to containers. But if they're all unopened, then I can't retain anything. So I'm opening everything. I'm buying everything used. This used is already open for me, so I don't have to undergo the hassle of opening them. I did not have to make apertures in their packaging and ravage the packaging. It's just easier to buy everything opened anyways. So I'm done dwelling on it. I'm done reading myself. It is what it is. I just need to stop stressing myself over it. Over this, I need to stop stressing myself over the situation. I mean, it is distressful. It's traumatic. It's a calamity. It is tragic. It is unfortunate in all facets, but it is what it is. Hopefully one day I'll be able to have a Triceratops army, and hopefully I'll be able to rebuild my action figure collection to become bigger, more prodigious, and more stellar than ever before. I look forward to the subsequent half of my life. I look for the prospect of buying them in the future. I doubt I'll receive a penny in donations, but there's no reason why I can't generate the wealth to earn them back. I nearly have earned a doctoral degree. I'm almost done. I've earned an MBA in marketing. I have earned over 30 million video views in the past. I've written probably over thousands of essays. I didn't count the exact number of essays I've written. I could always monetize those essays that I wrote for graduate school and for my undergraduate program and for my doctoral program. I could upload those to Blogger, or I could consolidate them into ebooks on Kindle. What else could I do to generate revenue? I could continue churning out more videos. People seem to like those. There's a niche market for nearly everything. What else could I do? I could spawn more music videos. I could open up another cafe press shop. I can go to a prototype development firm, have them develop a prototype of some inventions that I have archived on paper and that I drew sketches for. I drew a sketch of one of them. The other ones I still need to draw sketches for. Well, one of them is more of a digital product. One is a software product. The other one is a physical product. That's another topic for another day. In terms of my intellectual properties, I need to go to a prototype development firm, and then I need to get the prototype developed, and then I need to go to a patent attorney, have them file a patent, and then I need to license the invention to another company and then reap the royalties. I mean, in other words, there's a myriad of options to generate revenue in the future. I mean, I also have the capabilities to teach. I mean, even though I lack any pragmatic experience teaching in a classroom environment, I nearly have earned a terminal degree in marketing, and I have an MBA in marketing, so I have the credentials to teach marketing courses at the undergraduate level, and soon other credentials to teach marketing courses at the graduate level, which will render me qualified to teach marketing courses at any level. So I'll be able to do that. I mean, it'd be ideal if I had teaching experience beforehand, but I'm not going to put my future in peril. I'm not going to compromise my chances to perform eminently on my assignments. In other words, I'm not going to strive to procure a teaching position amid being a full-time doctoral student, since it's more imperative that I retain my 4.0 GPA than work a job and compromise my ability to perform eminently on my assignments. So I just listed a plethora of possibilities for myself. I need to take one step at a time, make headway in my life, continue to stay focused, concentrate, stay on path, to not get distracted, to not focus on external factors out of my control. I need to maintain focus, be tenacious. I need to have the temerity to persevere and move forward in my life, and to not succumb to defeat, despite the odds being against me. Why are the odds against me? Well, the costs of living in the United States are extremely high, and the standard of living is extremely low. Furthermore, if you're indebted, it puts you at a disadvantage as well. if you're laden with student debts, I made a blunder, it says student debts. Well, student debt. I made a blunder, sorry again. I really need to get some REM sleep, but I need to eat, feel lethargic. But if you're laden with student debt, then it's really like experiencing death. How? Because the stress it induces ravages your DNA, it contracts your telomeres, it compromises your immune system, and it puts your health in harm's way. So student debt is akin to student death because it literally kills your body. It decimates your body. I mean, so many nights I got 2 hours of sleep. I mean, my health is just atrocious at the moment. I feel like I'm dying, so it is a disadvantage. I mean, this environment that I live in is tainted with carcinogens. There's nothing I can do. Saturated with carcinogens. I can't control the environment I live in. I can't afford my own property. I mean, the income tax in the United States is extremely hefty, and it's just completely out of my control. I mean, I guess you could technically emigrate to another country, but to renounce your citizenship, you have to pay a fortune. And yet again, there's no guarantees that the circumstances will be ideal. I mean, if you emigrate to the Cayman Islands, what if there's a typhoon? What if there's a hurricane? What if you lose your home? I mean, is it really worth the voyage together? Should you trek to the Caymans, considering that it may not be in the best geographical location, since it's vulnerable to typhoons and hurricanes? So, I mean, circumstances are not ideal. There's no definitive optimal answer to any of this, but you just have to brook the circumstances you face and make the best out of it and exude maximum effort. And that's all you can do at the end of the day. You could put forth maximum effort. You can strive to enrich yourself. You could strive to educate yourself. You could empower yourself in a multitude of ways. You can enhance your skill sets. You can learn under the tutelage of your superiors. You can assimilate ample knowledge through making empirical observations. You can indulge in novel experiences to make your life be more fulfilling. You can work more efficiently. You could utilize automated processes so that your business is partially automated. But at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. You need to deal with debts. You need to deal with debt if you're indebted. You need to deal with maintaining your house. You need to deal with financing your bills and your monthly expenditures. You know what I mean? You need to be able to afford your utilities. You need to be able to be prudent. You need to be able to be frugal. So you could only have a salary commensurate with your economic value. But I mean, it is what it is. I just have to stop dwelling on it. I need to be optimistic and not be pessimistic. So I'm done. But as they say, c'est la vie. This video is on the cusp of ending. I hope that I'll be able to reclaim my whole entire action figure collection again. I may have to pay $15,000 to get them. It may take me until I'm 40 to be able to afford to buy them, but it's not the end of the world. At least the second time I buy them, I'm opening them, I'm going to relish them, I'm going to utilize them, and I'm going to flaunt them on my shelf. I said I'm done. I doubt anyone has watched this video to the end, but if you have, then please let me know via the comment section beneath this video. I'm sorry about the ranting and raving. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Bye.